My girlfriend spent our anniversary with her ex and tweeted, "I don't owe anyone an explanation. Real women don't ask permission." I retweeted it with, "Neither do I," and posted a photo that shocked her. Now she's begging for another chance. My name is Paul. I am 29 and I work in IT support for a mid-sized logistics company in Prague. My schedule is pretty predictable most weeks. Office hours, occasional late tickets, and a lot of quiet evenings where I decompress with podcasts or long walks along the river. I met my girlfriend Ashley 2 years ago through mutual friends. She is 27 and works as a veterinary assistant at a private animal clinic on the other side of the city. We have been together a little over 2 years, and for the last 8 months we have been living together in a small apartment in Vinohrady. Rent is split. Groceries usually fall on me because I cook more, and our daily routine has been fairly normal. Ashley has always been outspoken. That was actually one of the things that attracted me to her at first. She tends to say exactly what she thinks without filtering it much. She also treats social media like a running commentary on her life. Twitter, Instagram, everything. At first I saw that as confidence. Her ex-boyfriend Jacob has always been somewhere in the background. They dated for almost 4 years before we met. According to Ashley, the breakup was mutual, and they stayed in occasional contact because they share some friends and a few social circles. I never loved that situation, but I also never tried to control who she talks to. My rule in relationships has always been simple. If something bothers me, I say it once, and we deal with it directly. For most of our relationship, that system worked. Last week was supposed to be our second anniversary. Nothing huge. I planned dinner at a small place near Old Town that Ashley likes. I even took the afternoon off work so I could get everything sorted early and make the night relaxed. Around 3 in the afternoon, she texted saying she had to stay late at the clinic because one of the vets asked her to help with an emergency appointment. That already felt a little strange because she usually complains when her shift suddenly runs long. Then around 6, I opened Twitter while waiting for our reservation time. That was when I saw Ashley posting a photo of cocktails across a table from Jacob. Under it, she wrote that she did not owe anyone an explanation and that real women do not ask permission. That was the exact moment our anniversary stopped being an anniversary. For a few seconds, I honestly thought I was misunderstanding what I was looking at. The picture was clearly taken at a bar. 2 drinks on the table. One of them was the exact cocktail Ashley always orders when we go out. Across the table from her was Jacob, smiling straight at the camera like he had absolutely no problem being there. Ashley was sitting next to him instead of across from him, close enough that their shoulders were touching. The caption was what made it worse. She wrote that she did not owe anyone an explanation and that real women do not ask permission. The tweet had only been up for about 10 minutes when I saw it, but it already had a few likes from her friends. A couple people even replied with things like "queen behavior" and "live your life." Meanwhile, I was standing outside the restaurant where I had just checked in for our anniversary reservation. For context, Ashley knew exactly what tonight was. We talked about it earlier that week. I told her I made a reservation, and she even asked what time we should leave the apartment. So seeing that tweet was not just surprising. It was very deliberate. The weirdest part was that she had texted me only 3 hours earlier saying she was stuck at the clinic helping with an emergency appointment. Clearly she was not. I did not call her immediately. I did not text either. Instead, I sat down on a bench across the street from the restaurant and just thought about the situation for a few minutes. There are a lot of ways someone can react to something like this. Most of them involve arguing, emotional messages, or trying to force an explanation out of the other person. I have learned over time that those reactions rarely help. Ashley and I had one rule in our relationship. If something crosses a boundary, we address it directly and we do not pretend it did not happen. What she did was not subtle. She chose to spend our anniversary with her ex. Then she posted it publicly with a caption that basically dared anyone to question her about it. So I did not send a message. Instead, I kept scrolling through her Twitter. About 5 minutes later, she posted another tweet that made the situation a lot clearer. Her second tweet showed up about 5 minutes after the first one. This one did not have a picture, just text. Ashley wrote that people get way too sensitive about who someone spends time with, and that insecure men are the biggest red flag in relationships. That tweet got even more attention than the first one. A few of her friends jumped in immediately agreeing with her. One of them even replied that men who cannot handle confident women deserve to be single. Again, this was all happening while I was literally sitting outside the restaurant where we were supposed to be celebrating our anniversary. At that point, I stopped feeling confused. I started feeling very clear about what was happening. Ashley knew exactly what she was doing. The tweet was not random. It was not vague. It was basically a public statement that she was doing whatever she wanted and anyone who had a problem with it was insecure, including me. What made the situation even stranger is that we had actually talked about Jacob before. Early in our relationship, I told her I was not comfortable with the idea of one-on-one hangouts with exes. I did not frame it as a rule or a demand. I just said that for me it crosses a line. Ashley told me back then that I had nothing to worry about and that Jacob was firmly in the past. Apparently, that was no longer the case. I sat there for another few minutes watching her replies stack up under those tweets. Not once did she message me. Not once did she acknowledge that we had plans that night. At that point, the restaurant host came outside to ask if I was still planning to use the reservation. I told him no and apologized for the inconvenience. Then I walked home. On the way back, I kept thinking about something Ashley once said during an argument months earlier. She told me that strong women do not ask permission to live their lives. At the time, I brushed it off because the argument was about something minor. Now I was looking at her Twitter, where she was basically repeating the exact same idea to an audience. By the time I reached our apartment building, I had already made a decision about how I was going to respond. And it was not going to involve a private conversation. The walk back to the apartment took about 20 minutes. Normally, I listen to music when I walk home from work, but that night, I kept my phone in my hand the entire time watching Ashley's Twitter. She was still posting. About 10 minutes after her second tweet, she uploaded another photo. This one was a short video clip of her and Jacob clinking their glasses together. The bar looked crowded and loud. Ashley was smiling like she was having the best night of her life. The caption said something about how people should stop letting insecure partners control their friendships. At that point, it was obvious that this was not just a random meetup with an ex. She was performing it. Every tweet was clearly meant for an audience. The message was basically that she was independent, confident, and not controlled by her boyfriend. Which was interesting, because I had never tried to control her. I never checked her phone. I never told her who she could talk to. I never questioned her when she went out with friends. The only boundary I had ever stated was about one-on-one hangouts with ex-partners. And she knew that. By the time I reached our apartment building, her first tweet had already been retweeted several times. People were replying with the usual social media encouragement. Live your truth. Do what makes you happy. Do not let insecure men hold you back. Ashley was enjoying the attention. When I unlocked the apartment door, the place was completely quiet. The dinner ingredients I had bought earlier were still sitting on the kitchen counter. I had originally planned to cook breakfast for us the next morning as a small follow-up to the dinner reservation. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table and opened Twitter again. Ashley had built her entire little performance around one idea. She does not owe anyone an explanation. And real women do not ask permission. I stared at that sentence for a minute. Then I opened my camera roll and scrolled until I found the photo I was looking for. It was something I had taken earlier that afternoon before leaving work. At the time, it was just meant to be a quiet surprise for our anniversary. Now it was about to become something very different. The photo I found in my camera roll was taken around 2 in the afternoon that same day. At the time, everything was still normal. Ashley and I were texting casually about what time we should leave for dinner. She even sent a message asking if the restaurant had good desserts because she wanted something chocolate. While she was sending those texts, I had stepped out during my lunch break. Not to buy flowers. Not to pick up wine. I had gone to a small jewelry store a few blocks from my office. For the past couple months, I had been thinking seriously about proposing. Nothing dramatic or public. Just something simple later in the year once I had saved a bit more money and we had settled into the apartment fully. The ring in the photo was sitting in a small open box on the glass counter of the store. I took the picture to send to my sister later because she helped me choose it. At the time, it felt like a quiet step forward in my life. Now I was staring at that same photo while Ashley was posting videos of herself drinking cocktails with her ex on our anniversary. The contrast was honestly surreal. I opened Twitter again and looked at her first tweet. I do not owe anyone an explanation. Real women do not ask permission. That line had already been retweeted a few dozen times by that point. People were treating it like some kind of inspirational quote. I thought about calling Ashley. I thought about texting her something simple like, "Are you serious right now?" But the more I looked at her tweets, the more obvious it became that she had already decided how she wanted this situation to play out. She wanted an audience. She wanted a reaction. So instead of sending her a private message, I tapped the retweet button. I added my own caption. 2 very short sentences. Neither do I. Then I attached the photo of the ring box sitting open on the jewelry store counter. And I posted it. My tweet was up for less than 2 minutes before the notification started. At first, it was just a few likes. Then replies started showing up. People were clearly coming from Ashley's tweet thread and trying to understand what they were looking at. Because if you saw the 2 tweets together, The timeline told a very strange story. Ashley posting pictures of cocktails with her ex on our anniversary while declaring she does not owe anyone an explanation. Then me retweeting it with the words "neither do I" and attaching a photo of an engagement ring. A few people immediately figured out what was going on. Some replies were confused. Others were just brutal. Meanwhile, Ashley had not responded yet. I set my phone down on the kitchen table and looked around the apartment. The place suddenly felt different. Not sad. Not dramatic. Just very clear. Ashley had made her decision hours earlier when she chose to spend our anniversary with Jacob and broadcast it online like it was some kind of empowerment statement. I was simply responding to the information she gave me. So instead of sitting there waiting for her reaction, I stood up and walked into the bedroom. Ashley had moved into the apartment with me 8 months earlier. The lease was in my name because I had already been living there for almost a year before she moved in. We split the rent, but legally the apartment was still mine. I opened the closet and looked at the side that held most of her clothes. For a moment, I just stood there thinking about how quickly things can shift from normal to finished. Then I grabbed the first empty suitcase from the top shelf. If Ashley wanted independence and freedom to do whatever she wanted without explanation, I was not going to argue with that. But she was not going to do it while living in my apartment. I started with the clothes first, folded them, placed them neatly into the suitcase, and moved on to the dresser drawers. No anger, no rushing, just packing. Packing her things was strangely calm work. I started with the closet. Ashley had a lot of clothes compared to me, mostly because her job required her to look presentable at the clinic. Different scrubs, jackets, casual outfits for days off. I folded everything carefully and placed it into 2 suitcases and a large gym bag. While I was doing that, my phone kept buzzing on the kitchen table. Notifications were stacking up. People were still reacting to the tweets. Some were laughing at the situation. Others were asking if Ashley knew what my tweet meant. A few people were even tagging her directly, telling her she might want to check what her boyfriend just posted. I ignored the phone and kept packing. Next came the dresser drawers. Makeup bags, hair products, random things she kept scattered around the bedroom. I put everything into a cardboard box from the storage closet. The entire time I kept thinking about how deliberate Ashley's tweets had been earlier. She did not accidentally post that picture with Jacob. She did not accidentally write that caption. She wanted people to see it. She wanted attention. And she clearly expected me to stay quiet about it. After about 40 minutes, most of her things were packed. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, a few books she kept on the bedside table. I carried the suitcases out to the living room and lined them up near the front door. Right as I set the last one down, my phone rang. Ashley. I let it ring until it stopped. A few seconds later, another call came through. I declined that one too. Then the text started. The first message was just one sentence asking what the hell my tweet was supposed to mean. The second message came about 30 seconds later. She asked why people were saying I had posted a picture of a ring. I looked at the messages for a moment before setting the phone face down again. At that point, I still had one last thing to do before Ashley got home. The last thing I needed to do was simple. Ashley had a spare key to the apartment. When she moved in, I gave her a copy so she could come and go without worrying about my work schedule. That key was probably still in her purse while she was sitting at the bar with Jacob. I was not interested in waiting around for a late-night argument in the hallway. So I grabbed my jacket and walked downstairs to the small hardware store on the corner. The owner knows me because I have lived in the building for a while. When I asked if he had replacement lock cylinders for my door, he handed me one without even asking many questions. The entire trip took maybe 15 minutes. By the time I got back upstairs, my phone had completely exploded with notifications. Ashley had clearly seen my tweet. There were now multiple missed calls and a string of messages waiting for me. The tone had already shifted. Her first texts earlier sounded irritated. The new one sounded a lot more urgent. She asked why I would post something like that publicly. Then she said people were messaging her asking if she had just blown up her relationship. The last message said she was leaving the bar and coming home so we could talk. I set the phone down again and grabbed a screwdriver from the kitchen drawer. Replacing the lock cylinder on the door took less than 5 minutes. I had done it once before when I first moved in. When I finished, the new key was already in my pocket. Ashley's old one would no longer work. After that, I carried the suitcases and boxes down the hallway and stacked them neatly just outside the apartment door. Anyone walking past could clearly see they belonged to someone who was being moved out. Then I went back inside, closed the door, and locked it. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Ashley. Not a call. A message saying she was standing outside the building and her key was not working. Her message came through at 9:14. The first one said her key was not working. The second one arrived about 30 seconds later asking if I had changed the lock. Then came the calls again. I watched the phone vibrate on the table while the screen lit up with her name. After the third call, I picked it up, not to answer, but to read the next message that came in. Ashley wrote that this was not funny and asked what I thought I was doing. I walked over to the door and looked through the small peephole into the hallway. She was standing there next to the suitcases, still wearing the same jacket from the picture she posted earlier at the bar. Her phone was in her hand, and she was clearly typing fast, probably sending the same messages I was reading. A moment later, another message came through. She asked why her things were outside. That was when I finally replied. I told her the situation seemed pretty straightforward. She said earlier that she does not owe anyone an explanation and that real women do not ask permission. So I was respecting that. Her reply came almost instantly. She said I was overreacting and that it was just drinks with an old friend. Not even an apology. Just drinks. I looked back through the peephole again. Ashley had noticed the tweet reactions by now because she kept refreshing her phone and pacing in the hallway. Another message came through. This time she asked if I was seriously ending the relationship over one night. I typed a short answer. I told her the relationship ended the moment she decided to spend our anniversary with her ex and announce it online like it was some kind of statement. After sending that message, I opened her contact on my phone and blocked the number. Then I opened Twitter and blocked her there too. A few seconds later, I heard another knock on the door, and then another, but my phone was finally quiet. The knocking continued for a few minutes. At first it was controlled, just Ashley trying to get my attention through the door. Then it became faster and louder once she realized I was not responding. I stayed in the kitchen and did not move. Without the phone notifications buzzing every few seconds, the apartment felt quiet again. The same quiet it had earlier that evening before everything turned into a public spectacle online. Eventually, the knocking stopped. A couple minutes later, I heard the sound of the suitcases being dragged across the hallway floor. Ashley was clearly moving them toward the elevator. That part lasted longer than I expected because she had more things than she probably realized. I waited another 10 minutes after the hallway went silent before checking the peephole again. The suitcases were gone. So was Ashley. Only then did I finally open Twitter again. The tweet I posted earlier had taken on a life of its own. Hundreds of people had now seen the exchange between Ashley and me. Some people were treating it like a dramatic story unfolding in real time. Others were pointing out the obvious timeline. Ashley publicly spent her anniversary with her ex and told the world she did not owe anyone an explanation. Her boyfriend responded by posting the engagement ring he had planned to give her that same day. Then the relationship ended. I did not post anything else after that. No follow-up thread. No explanation. Ashley tried to contact me through a mutual friend 2 days later asking if we could talk and work things out. Apparently, she told people the night with Jacob was harmless and that she did not expect me to react like that. The friend passed the message along. I told him there was nothing left to discuss. Ashley made a very public statement that night about independence and not needing anyone's permission. All I did was take her at her word and move forward with my own decision. Sometimes the clearest answers show up when someone thinks an audience will support them.